The following program may contain coarse language, suggestive dialogue, and discussion of violent imagery and sexual situations. It is intended for mature listeners who can tell the difference between facts and opinions.
CM Punk takes a shot at AEW, and AJ Styles is Jack now? That's right, you're listening to the next episode of Thoughts on Wrestling. My name is Paul Pascrillo, and with me today I have...
the king of all things pizza, me, Tony Leitner. How are you guys? Paul, how you doing?
Good. I think our first podcast turned out well. I wish it would get more plays in that, but I'm working on that as we speak, so... when I put my mind to something, Tony, it's going to happen. So, anyways,
like when you hired me at the movie theaters, you put your mind to it and you made it happen.
Moving on. Let's see. So, what's happened since the last time we had an episode? CM Punk was on SmackDown, NXT, Raw, so he's making the rounds. And well, we can just start with SmackDown. CM Punk finally dropped his pipe bomb, so to speak, and oh boy, he decided to take a shot at AEW.
Right? Who wants to work with a guy who throws punches backstage? I thought that was absolutely hilarious.
That was hilarious. And what was even more hilarious to me was when people were they took the video and spun it online, so it sounded like nobody had a reaction to it. But right after CM Punk said that, the crowd started chanting CM Punk, CM Punk. So obviously they knew what was going on. But yeah, that was a lot better than when he showed up on Raw, because that was uncensored. Punk is, I think, it's as uncensored as you're gonna get him at this point. I just love how he's like, you can't go backstage and punch people. It's 2023. You just can't do that, folks. And I'm like, oh my fucking god. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Right, because some people, like people who only are diehard like WWE fans, are like, oh, he's talking about Kevin Owens punching Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. But then you got the fans who know more about like everything else, like, no, he was taking a shot at AEW by also still making fun of the Kevin Owens situation. But that was I like that. I like that Triple H probably gave him free reign on that. It was like, all right, we're going to give you one or two free promos. I feel like maybe like air your grievances a little bit, and just do it the right way. I like personally how on NXT he mentioned how he's like, oh, but you and Brett made up. He's like, me and Triple H made up. Like the fact that
that was funny.
He brought that to light was like, all right, I like that. I respect that you're like, be like, hey, we made up. Anything's possible. Hell froze over.
Yeah, and speaking of him being on NXT the night after SmackDown, he met up with the returning Cora Jade, and the way that they had the pictures in backstage that were put up online and put on CM Punk's Instagram was like, it kind of made my heart melt a little bit. I'm gonna say it. And he came in, she was trying to do a promo, and he just comes into the shot and surprises her and says how proud he is of her, how proud his wife is of her. And it was one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're really trying to play this up, it's working, CM Punk, because I'm believing that you really want to be back. You know
You want to know who doesn't believe him?
who?
The Visionary. He is a revolutionary. He is our world heavyweight champion, Seth freaking Rollins. This is where I wish that
Yep.
just plays music and just just
Calm down, Tony. Calm down. But yeah, so moving into Raw, the 2 nights later, CM Punk was saying on SmackDown, he said it on NXT, I'm gonna sign with one of these 3 brands, Obviously we knew where he was gonna sign, but so he signed on Raw. He kind of did a little bit of a spiel on Raw as well. It wasn't anything like, it wasn't anything like what happened on SmackDown with his pipe bomb, so to speak. But it was interesting to have Seth Rollins come out, and I mean, he literally laid it on there. Like, you could see like some of what he was saying was probably true, because these wrestlers bring some of real life into their promos and everything, and it just makes it better in the long run. But yeah, it was. Go ahead.
I was actually going to ask you about that promo. How do you feel like it was partially a work and partially a shoot? Because I mean, I saw recently a video, someone asking Seth when he knew about Punk being back, and he said, I knew when his music hit. He's like, I had heard. He's like, there was rumors. He's like, but I knew officially when his music hit. So my that's what I was gonna ask was, what did you think of Seth's promo?
So, first of all, he's a lying son of a bitch. We know that because all the dirt sheets, including Sean Ross, were saying all these wrestlers that were in the main event of Survivor Series knew about this, knew that CM Punk was coming out right after the match. So I can say some of this is a work. I do think that some of this is truth, because I mean, come on, his one of his best friends is Dean Ambrose. I'm not going to call him his AEW name because he's Dean Ambrose in my eyes. Yeah, I mean, there's some truth to that. But see, I keep thinking about this, Tony, and it's, for me, I personally think that what's happening is WWE saw that AEW got Will Ospreay, and we're like, well, this sucks because we really wanted to have this match with him and Seth Rollins. We all know that everybody wants to see that match. It's going to happen at some point. Hopefully it'll happen at some point, I should say. But they had this opportunity to get CM Punk, and if you remember back when Fox had that show, I can't remember what it was that it was called. But Fox brought in CM Punk to be on the team, and Seth Rollins right there said, I would beat you in a match. So they had already set this up years ago. Now it's just, it's reality, because now CM Punk is actually back in the WWE and not just on a show employed by Fox. So I think it's more than half is a work. I think I'm going to fall around like 70-30. 70% of it was a work, 30% of it is a shoot, just because to me it makes sense that, yes, there is some reality to your hatred because you were treating his friend like shit over in AEW. But on the flip side of it, it's what's best for business. And guess what? Seth Rollins is going to make money. CM Punk's going to make money. WWE is going to make money. Other wrestlers are going to make money because of this. So why wouldn't you want that? Now, that leads me to say this. It will be interesting to see if Seth Rollins doesn't sign with WWE, him and his wife, because their contracts are up sometime in the summertime next year. If he doesn't re-sign, it's probably because CM Punk's there. That's just my thought process, because there's no reason for him to leave all that money on the table from WWE, and we all know that he's going to get millions.
No, I do agree that his contract situation is interesting. It's it's very similar, I feel like, to Drew's, because apparently Drew also hasn't re-signed. So I think going into 2024, WWE has the potential to do a lot with these title pictures and like these storylines, and seeing what they can produce out of it. Like at day one or New Year's, I think New Year's day one is the first Raw. We're gonna get Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. So that right there is going to be very interesting, because you always have Judgment Day looming, led by R-Truth. What's CM Punk's what's his first feud going to be? What's his first like storyline? I'm interested. I want to see where they're going to go with that. Like, do you even maybe put him up against Gunther? So then you have the Intercontinental title versus the World Heavyweight Championship, if that's the case. I mean, and then that way you put Gunther into the Royal Rumble. I mean, have him, like, I don't know, there's so much like, is Punk gonna win the Rumble now? Like,
there's a lot of possibilities there. I mean, what was I gonna say? So, I mean, that obviously jumps into like, Seth does his promo, and then, obviously CM Punk's like, this is the only time that you're gonna talk to me like this. Oh, by the way, Adam Pearce, come over here. I'm entering the Royal Rumble. And then, by the way, when I win the Royal Rumble, I'm going to probably challenge for your title, basically. So I don't know. I mean, I was kind of hoping, I'm just being honest here. I was kind of hoping that it would be CM Punk versus Seth Rollins without a title on the line. I don't think they need to have a title on the line for this. But, it doesn't matter to me, honestly. It seems like, well, first of all, we know that CM Punk, his first match back in the WWE is going to be against Dirty Dom at Madison Square Garden. It's a live show, so it's not going to be on TV. I'm kind of hoping that it might be on Peacock, but I'm not getting my hopes up for that. As far as him winning the Royal Rumble, it's interesting, because if you remember, like right after the Royal Rumble is the Elimination Chamber, which is going to be in Australia.
right.
So
my only issue is I don't know if the crowd is going to want Cody to win the Rumble again, because like the wrong place, like crowds are weird. You know what I mean? Like, remember in 2015 they booed the ever living shit out of Roman. Like, they treated him like he was the most disgusting person in the world, that like just pure hatred towards him in Philly. You know? So I mean, I don't know how Tampa is. Tampa might be very welcoming to Cody, but at the same time, if he wins it back-to-back years, then the fans might become fickle. And I think that could be dangerous for his momentum in a sense. So like, you have all these different possibilities now with people entering the Rumble and like who's gonna be in it, like a star-studded event. I feel like, in one sense, the most obvious way to start the Rumble is you have Jimmy in at number 1 and Jay at 2. I feel like that right there just screams money. Because then it sets up their WrestleMania match potentially. You have the option of, with Sammy being out, you could have Drew come in at number 1 and Sammy come out at 2. You know, like he's back and like. Or honestly, I'd rather though have Drew like in the middle of the match, having like a thing going, like having momentum, like no one can stop him, and then Sammy's music hits. Here comes the returning Sami Zayn. We haven't seen Sammy since he was taken out by that man Drew McIntyre. And you know you're gonna get some crazy pop from Michael Cole and Corey Graves. You know, how would you book the Rumble from each of the GM's perspectives? That's what I'm curious. If you're in creative and you're writing it for Raw in one sense and then for SmackDown in another sense, how would you do it with all these stars that are returning, especially guys like Big Jack AJ?
So I would say, I mean, getting back to the whole subject of CM Punk, I would say, as it pertains to the Rumble, I think he will win the Rumble. The men's side of the Rumble, obviously. But I think what's going to end up happening, honestly, is, and you can start to see that they're trying to set something up, at least from the Bloodlines perspective, of having Solo be the next tribal chief and however that's going to affect things and whatnot. Because I think they may actually have Roman lose at this WrestleMania. To get to your point, because what you had first said was, Cody winning again. I think people would be fine with Cody winning the Royal Rumble again as long as he wins at WrestleMania. If he doesn't win at WrestleMania this time and beat Roman Reigns, I'm just going to be honest with you. People are going to throw a fit. I'm going to be one of those people that throws a fit because I'm sick and tired of Roman Reigns losing, especially if he loses when somebody interferes, because it's just getting so fucking old and I'm getting sick of it.
There will be riots in Philly.
Oh, yeah.
That crowd is going to be hostile that night if they don't get what they want.
Definitely.
I've heard rumors of them wanting to do an I Quit match between Cody and Roman at Mania.
I don't think that's necessary, honestly. What I see honestly happening going up through to the WrestleMania is Cody loses the Royal Rumble, wins an Elimination Chamber where he's one of the 4 or 5 men. I can't remember. I think it's 5 men. Or it might be 6. I have no idea anymore. Anyways, that wins the Elimination Chamber, and whoever wins that particular match in the Elimination Chamber faces Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I think he's going to win that, and I think he's going to win the championship this time because, yes, there will be fucking riots in the street. As far as how the Royal Rumble is going to be done, at least from the men's side, you're going to definitely see LA Knight, I think, unless something special comes up to where and it doesn't look like that's the way it is, but I personally would like to see, and let me just put it down for you like this. Speaking of the Royal Rumble, the final 4 of the Royal Rumble, I want it to be LA Knight, I want it to be CM Punk, I want it to be Cody Rhodes, and throw Gunther in there. Why not? I think that would be an awesome match, honestly. So that's where I think the final 4, the Royal Rumble will come down to. CM Punk will win. I think there's going to be some surprises on the med side. I kind of hope that they bring back Zack Ryder, or should I say Matt Cardona, because obviously at this point it makes sense just to bring him in for the Royal Rumble. I can see, I could see maybe one or two other surprises as well. Maybe even what's his name coming back? Braun Strowman. I could see Braun Strowman coming back at the Royal Rumble.
You want to know who I'm putting my eggs in a basket for a surprise return?
Who's that?
The world's most dangerous man, Ken Shamrock.
They did sign a deal with him for T-shirts, so that is a possibility.
And you know that man probably stays in ridiculously good shape. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing him in a one-off. Like, could you imagine, like, Gunther in the ring, and then all of a sudden Ken Shamrock's music hits? Tampa Bay, the Tropicana Dome would explode. That place would go wild. They'd be like, wow, is this the Rays? Is this what the Rays winning the World Series is like? No. This is what a perfectly well-planned return for WWE is like at the Rumble.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, I mean, I think that's from our side, or from the men's side, from CM Punk and Cody Rhodes and all that. I think that's how it's all going to shake out. Speaking of LA Knight, and I kind of teased this at the beginning in case you guys haven't seen the SmackDown that happened a couple days ago, but Styles comes back. AJ Styles comes back. And dude is like jacked. Like I'm looking at this dude going, the hell did you do while you were gone? Like, were you lifting like these huge tires or something? Like, holy shit. Like, dude comes back, beats the crap out of the Bloodline, and then lays out LA Knight with a clothesline. So I'm like sitting here going, okay, so we're gonna have AJ Styles versus LA Knight coming up, probably at the Royal Rumble. So that'll probably end up happening. Which, to be honest with you, I would like to see LA Knight go through some high profile people just to keep his status where it is, because it's going to fall off if they don't. What else?
I think that at the Rumble, we're going to see the seeds plant. Well, I mean, the seeds already been planted. We're going to get LA Knight versus Logan Paul at WrestleMania. Because
I would agree with that.
I saw a TikTok where Logan Paul was trying to pawn off the U.S. Championship, and he had name dropped LA Knight in the promo that he was like cutting while he was doing it. So that right there is just planting the seeds of going through it. So I think at the Rumble, I think at the Rumble we're gonna see the beginning of the LA Knight Logan Paul feud. I can see him costing LA Knight the Rumble in some way, like he did last year with Seth Rollins. So, and that right there set up their feud and their matchup. So I could see that happening. But I would definitely, like you said, I'd like to see LA Knight like go through a couple high profile people in that match. Really, the next thing I was gonna ask is, who do you think would be your Iron Man of the Rumble? Like, every year there's that one person who like just goes all out in the match. Like last year it was Gunther, and entering at 1 and setting the record for longest time in the Rumble. So I mean, who would you pick as this year's Iron Man?
I think it's going to be one of two things. It's either going to be, if LA Knight is in the Royal Rumble, and I could see him being the Iron Man. Again, they want to try to keep him in a high status. But if it is an LA Knight, it's probably going to be Cody Rhodes, to be honest with you. Let's just be honest. I think he's going to be number one. I see Cody being at number one. I see CM Punk being at 30. I don't know if that's going to happen that way, but that's the way I'm seeing it, or I think it's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. But I think Cody will come out as like the Iron Man.
I'd like to see Solo as the Iron Man. I feel like that would definitely propel him, because I could see in like the chamber them having Solo in there to like protect Roman or whatever, protect like the best investments of the bloodline. Then they'll tell him like, oh, make sure that you don't go to because I think by WrestleMania, Roman's walking in with no help from the bloodline. I think that he's going to be completely on his own, and I think that's going to be the downfall of everything. I think that'll be the night that our tribal chief goes away for a while. And I think he should take all the way off until next Rumble, 2025 Rumble. Have the tribal chief come back, because then the pop that he would get. Right now, we're acknowledging at my house.
Yeah, I mean, I could honestly see like, I could see Roman losing the title at WrestleMania. I don't think he goes away just yet. I think that you're going to see him at SummerSlam again. It probably won't be against Cody Rhodes. It'll actually probably be against CM Punk, because they're going to want to get their bang for their buck, so to speak. And, there's been rumors that he's going to face Roman Reigns after he faced Seth Rollins. So I think that's what's going to happen. But then, yes, he should go away for a little bit and just not show up until, until he can get a pop for it. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, so, and then, what else happened? So Charlotte Flair's out for 9 months again.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say again.
We circled. We went from one topic to like just all over the map. Going from all the way from talking Punk all the way into the Rumble and the next year and everything. I saw that sucks to see Charlotte go down. And it's interesting with the timing that happened, because I saw something on the internet that said AEW is not trying to pursue Mercedes Moné anymore. So now I'm wondering, with Charlotte being out, did Papa H go and make a move?
So you're reading my mind. You got to stop doing that, Tony. That's not good.
I'm Professor Pizza.
So, that was the next thing I was going to talk about. So Charlotte Flair being out because she was injured. She'll be out for 9 months. I do think that the possibility of Sasha Banks coming back, it's not Mercedes money. It's Sasha Banks. Let's just face facts. Okay. The possibility has gone up.
Michael Cole is going to cream himself to death when the first time he can say it's boss time, by the way.
Probably. But I think because she went out, the possibility of her coming back went up. Now, I'm not saying that WWE should be paying this extravagant amount of money that Sean Ross keeps hinting that her name right now is Mercedes Money, wants to wrestle. Because I'll be honest with you, it's for me, and it's perfect now that I have this wrestling podcast, because now I can talk about this. The one thing that pissed me off about, and I'm going to go into a tangent, I'm warning you right now, Tony. The one thing that pissed me off when her and Naomi walked out was, if you or me walked out of a job, if we walked out of a job, we're not going to be able to go back to that place. In normal life, you are not going back to that place that you worked at. Don't get me wrong. I don't know what happened backstage. I don't know what the context was. There's rumors there's one side says this, one side says this. But for me, it's more or less, if she's going to cost you a lot of money and you just really want her for, a year, do you go out and spend money on Mercedes money? Also, is AEW really not bringing her in, or is AEW have different plans for her? Because yes, the plans have supposedly changed, but that doesn't mean that she's coming back in. I don't know. I mean, it would be a great surprise at the Royal Rumble if it's a one-time thing. I don't care about that. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead, throw her in the Royal Rumble if you want. Personally, I would rather like to see Jade Cargill come in at the Royal Rumble and just knock it out of the park, and it be more on her. And by the way, if you're going to bring her back in, that's the match that you want to have, is her and Jade go at it. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Yes, because Charlotte's injured, but there's all these women wrestlers we have now. So do you really need it? No. If it's a lot of money, do you bring her in? No. So I guess my answer to that is no, but if you bring her in, I'm not going to complain about it.
Right. I that's how I feel. Like, I wouldn't be upset if she came back, but I wouldn't be upset if she didn't come back either. Like, I'm not like putting all my eggs in the basket going, oh my God, they said that she might not be signing with AEW. Oh my God, please, WWE, please go out and sign her. Like, I mean, it'd be cool. I think that Triple H is all about amending wrongs on whoever side it may be. So I think that, like you said, the timing of Charlotte Flair going out, I think that may increase the possibility. Was there always a possibility of him trying to reconcile and sign her? I 100% believe that, because he knows what's best. Like, Sasha Banks is one of his talents, his homegrown babies, So I think for him, he would like to have that back, especially now you could do even more stuff within the women's division. Later on, say she comes back later on down the road, we get the 4 Horsewomen reunion. What if we get like a hugging Bayley return, like the Boston Hug Connection? Because I think we're gonna see Damage Control turn on Bayley sooner than later.
Mm-hmm.
And I could see it at like the Rumble, her getting like 3-on-1 or something, and all of a sudden Sasha Banks' music hits. Whew. Sheesh. That place is gonna explode for her.
I do think that they're kind of hinting at something, because it was seeming like Bayley was going to be, turned on by Damage Control. So, if that is where it's going, it would make sense to have Sasha Banks return, join with Bayley, and this battle goes on between the Kabuki Warriors and them. They win the tag team titles again, blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean, again, it's not like this big thing that I'm like, oh yeah, we have to do this. The one thing that I will say, though, speaking of the women's division, is I'm really, really, really hoping, because Triple H has brought in a lot of women. There's a lot of NXT women that are still, out there. I'm really hoping 2 things happen. Number one, we get another Evolution pay-per-view. And number 2, they do a mid-level Mid-level. Does mid-level? Yeah, I would say mid-level championship title belt for the women. Just because I think at this point you have so many fucking women that it just makes sense to have like I shouldn't say middle title. I should say kind of like a cruiserweight women's title, but not a cruiserweight title, if that makes sense. So I'd like to see them do
like a
that.
women's intercontinental championship.
Something like that. I mean, you don't necessarily have to make it like it doesn't have to be a men's title. You make something
No,
new.
not necessarily like the intercontinental championship, but something similar, like a second tier championship, something aside from the world heavyweight, the women's world heavyweight championship and the women's tag team championship, something that like someone that you can create other feuds with, more storylines with.
Right. I think that's the direction they're going in. There's big indications that that's where it's going in because you have so many women. It just makes sense that you would do that. I don't know if that'll happen. I mean, NXT is basically the whole is mostly women's matches anyways. And by the way, I love that because that's what WWE and all these other wrestling organizations should be doing. So I love having all these women matches that are good. I should say good women's matches. But it just seems like that's where Triple H is leaning. And there was a rumor that they were going to do this pay-per-view again, and it went away because Vince probably put the kibosh on it. But now that Triple H is back in charge, I really hope that becomes part of the schedule next year. So
personally, I would like to see certain pay-per-views come back as well. I'd like to see things like King of the Ring come back.
that
That
was supposed to come back actually.
Was it?
Yeah, so it was, if you remember, it was supposed to come back, and then it was supposed to be it was supposed to be in Saudi Arabia, and then they changed it to I think Night of Champions, and I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? Like, dude, like, can we not do this, Vince? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
So, yes, I definitely want to see King of the Ring back, and it needs to be a pay-per-view. It can't be this bullshit little tournament and then they win a prize. The King of the Ring, if you were King of the Ring, you got to face the champion. That was part of it.
Well, I mean, that's what you would think like it would be, but I mean, look at how many times they fumbled. How many times they fumbled the King of the Ring?
I mean, they didn't fumble, but it was more or less like, I mean, I guess like with Xavier Woods and Selena Vega, they definitely fumbled that because they didn't really, it was there for maybe a month or two, and then that gimmick went away. And it was like, why did you even do this if it, number one, doesn't mean anything, and number two, you're just like sitting there looking at it going, so why did this matter? Why winning King of the Ring or Queen of the Ring, why does that mean anything? What do I get from that? And if you're not getting a championship title shot, there's no point to it. There's no fucking point to it, honestly. Like it should make you the number one contender for whatever title you want to go after, which, okay, let's say you're on the Raw brand, you're going to face the world champion. If you're on SmackDown, you're going to face the Universal WWE champion. So that would make sense to me. But, Vince fumbled that a lot. So hopefully Triple H can bring that back because I would love to see that. The one thing that I forgot that we needed to talk about when we were talking about CM Punk, and I think this is probably a good spot to make the final topic of the night. I don't know if you heard this, Tony, but apparently CM Punk opened the door for Warner Media Discovery and WWE to start talking again about having Raw on one of their networks.
Mm,
Oh, you didn't hear that, did you?
I did not. That is interesting.
Yeah, so it's for me, it's one of those things where it's like, it's I would look for me, like what I would like to see is Raw. If it's not going to be on USA, it should be on TNT. That's just me. Um, if and I don't want it on FX. I certainly don't want it on Amazon Prime because Amazon Prime is terrible, and I don't want to go buy another fucking service just to watch Raw. I won't. Um, and if Disney's just gonna bury Raw on FX, just put it on. Just let Warner Media Discovery take it and let them put it on TNT. There is a thought in the AEW locker room that they may lose the TV rights with Warner Media Discovery
That would
over
be
this.
that would be some. Oh my God, Tony Khan would have a fucking conniption fit and a half. Like you see the way he rants and raves on X. But he just like goes absolutely berserk when WWE does anything that like counters him. Like what was the when they went on live on with Dynamite on a Tuesday, WWE's like Tuesday's NXT night. Okay, so we're gonna bring out John Cena, even though he never showed up because no one sees him. The Undertaker, like, and he's sitting there on X and Twitter and fucking having a conniption fit, screaming and bitching and complaining how it's not fair and they're disrespectful, all this stuff. I'm like, bro, stop. You're a fucking billionaire. Stop being a little bitch.
Yeah, I mean, he's so here's the thing. I think he knows that they're talking to WWE because obviously, not just because of social media, but I'm sure they've talked to him and said, "Hey, just so you know, we're trying to get the rights to Raw. You can't say shit about this because, if we can get it, we're gonna get it." So, and personally, I think that they will try to get it because the whole reason for Collision on Saturdays was because of CM Punk. So with CM Punk being on Raw, they're gonna want CM Punk. So, you're probably gonna see it on TNT. I see this happening. I I honestly don't see, because listen, and again, I'm gonna say Turner Sports because I think it is still called Turner Sports, even though it's under Warner Media Discovery. Turner Sports wants to have more sports stuff, so they're not going to drop AEW. Could they drop AEW? Of course they could. They could drop it in a dime if they wanted to. They're not going to drop it. It's their highest rated thing on Wednesday night. So they're going to keep AEW at least on Wednesday. If they get Raw, they're going to have Raw on Mondays. And then what else? They'll probably get rid of they're going to get rid of Rampage. There's no need for it at this point. It doesn't do anything on Friday nights.
And
it
then
just
if they get Raw, they're also probably going to get NXT on Tuesdays because that's part of the USA Network.
Well, no. NXT went to CW, remember?
Oh, did it?
Yeah, you didn't hear that? Yeah, CW picked up. They announced this a couple weeks ago that NXT is going to the CW, which is interesting to me because here's the thing: you see how SmackDown does, right? And you see how it does on Fox. SmackDown does on Fox. SmackDown on Fox is a local channel that everybody picks up for free. They just put their goddamn antenna on and they can watch it for free. We all know this. So, and I should say Friday nights too. So if you, by putting it on the CW, NXT, it's going to do higher ratings because a lot of localities have a CW channel that's local. So, I think a lot of people would watch it on CW because there's nothing on Tuesday nights really. But getting back to Raw, Tony, for example, was asked about this during the ROH press conference, and he was like, "Oh, that doesn't bother me." Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it doesn't bother me that he goes and loses his mind on Twitter when WWE does stuff. He's ridiculous. I get it because like if I had that kind of money, yeah, I'd want to play wrestling booker too. But I feel like sometimes he's too much of a fan when he makes these matches because shit doesn't make sense 90% of the time. Like this fucking this tournament, this Continental Classic match tournament thing they have going on. But what's it for? Like I don't get. I don't know what it's for. What's the point? And he just doesn't make sense with the stuff he does.
I'll give you one better. Why are you introducing a new title on Ring of Honor?
Like, see, like I just don't. Like you basically bury Jay White. Like this storyline with the Devil it's probably gonna be Jack Perry, and people are gonna lose their ever loving shit about it. Or if it's him, I swear to God, if Tony Khan's the Devil, dude, oh my God. And I can just see it. It was me, MJF. It was me. And then someone will be like, yeah, WWE did this before. And then on Twitter, they're like, they went and stole my idea when going in the future than going back in the past. I'm Tony Khan. Dumbass.
So what you're saying is you're a fan of Tony Khan. Gotcha. Okay.
I'm as much of a fan of Tony Khan as Bruce Pritchard and Eric Bischoff are of Dave Meltzer. And if you listen to anything with Conrad Thompson and those two, you'll know how much they love Dave Meltzer.
Isn't his name Mesker or something like that? I don't know.
No, Meltzer. Fuck Dave Meltzer.
So it's funny. It's funny you talk about Dave because the other day, I think it was a week or two ago, he said that after CM Punk came in, somebody asked him, was like, Dave, who's your Booker of the Year? And he said Triple H. So obviously, you know, he knows that AEW is not doing well. I mean, it's just, listen, one of these podcast episodes, I think me and you should just go into depth of just talk about AEW the whole time and just say like, hey, this is the things that they need to change. I mean, we kind of did that on episode 1 of the podcast, but I kind of think going into detail about like what exactly would make AEW successful is something that I think needs to be done because honestly, Tony just does not do a good job, and he just needs to learn to do a better job. Honestly, I don't know. I can't deal with it right now. I can't. I just can't with him. Like, you know, just get some writers, let them do what they do in AEW, what they do in WWE, and just let them write storylines. Your show will go shoot up in ratings so far that it won't worry. You'll be on the level of WWE. That's just the point, the fact of it. Oh, that's the other thing too. We were kind of talking about how AEW was going to make, what was it? I think 170 million. We said it was. Now what? There's a Twitter account that Wrestling Economics or something like that was saying that Tony would have to do well on the next TV deal for him to actually make a profit this year. So that just tells me. Oh, and that was the other thing too, is they lost a shitload of money on ticket sales, or not ticket sales, t-shirt sales. So I think the last part of what they got from getting Collision probably was part of the money that they were making in that 170 million. And then Wembley Stadium, that pay-per-view was where they made a lot of money too. So yeah, AEW's not doing well right now, Tony, and I don't think they're going to do well. I think the only thing that's doing well is ROH, and that's because somebody else is probably running it.
They definitely did exactly what WCW did, but way faster and way more extreme. The whole hiring like as many ex-WWE guys as they could, and I get it because you want name recognition. You want people to take you seriously and like be like, oh shit, like you want like those names to be there, like that's why it made sense when Chris Jericho was the first inaugural AEW World Champion, because that was like a name that every single person knew. Any wrestling fan, casual or hardcore, oh yeah, I know, yeah, Chris Jericho, everyone knows Jericho, and then that was a good move. But then every single WWE guy that was contract was up came along with AEW. Moxley, Cesaro, Danielson, Swagger, like all these guys, Christian, Edge, I'm sure fucking Kurt Angle was able to wrestle. I'm sure that Tony Khan would have offered him anything to come over and, wrestle. The only reason Hulk Hogan's not there is because Tony Khan hates him and banned him for life from AEW. But like, you got the Big Show who doesn't even do anything, and he's over there. Yeah, Mark Henry who's over there not doing anything. Like, why are you hiring all these ex-WWE guys and like half of them aren't doing anything? The late great Luke Harper was, God rest his soul. I wonder what would have happened with him. I feel like eventually he would have wound up back in WWE. Like Tony Khan just in these ridiculous matches, and like I love a good violent match. I like a good match with some blood when it's necessary, but every single week someone's like pouring blood all over the fucking ring in AEW. And like the Stadium Stampede match or whatever they had with the Blackpool Combat Club, and Moxley or Ambrose has these fucking like barbed wire sticks, like things sticking out of his head. I'm like, this is so stupid. They have like cage matches or like blood and guts matches, and they're using like shards of glass. Like, this is absolutely fucking dumb. That's the stuff that like people who aren't wrestling fans, that's the time that they tune in by accident to see wrestling, or like they just happen to say, oh, what's this? They turn on TV and then they see a guy with fucking taking a screwdriver and stabbing in another guy's head while he's lighting a candle on fire to shoot an exploding rocket up his ass while he DDTs them. And AEW's like, yes, that is such good shit. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't get it.
I mean, I think Tony Khan is trying to do way too many things at once. And honestly, I mean, I think, Tony, what we should do kind of um, maybe sometime in the next week or two is kind of just have a show about AEW and give our thoughts, because there's a lot of things that Tony, I think, is doing. And one of those things that I think that Tony's doing is he's trying to do too much at once. He's trying to be ECW. He's trying to be WCW. And by the way, I think he's more leaned towards ECW because you see it with all the blood that they try to do in some of these matches. And by the way, there's no problem with that. It's just you're trying to be a WCW / WWE, and you're trying to be ECW.
There's a place and time for blood in matches. Not every match needs to be blood and like thumbtacks pouring like all over the place. Like one of my buddies, for instance. It's a little off topic, but it's starting to make sense. One of my buddies always be like, "Oh, Hell in a Cell would be a great match." I'm like, "No." No. Hell in a Cell isn't necessary for certain matches. He's like, "Oh, he's like, I just figured it would be a great blow-off match." I'm like, "No." I'm like, Hell in a Cell is a personal match. Like, it is something that is like, it needs to be settled, and the only place it can be settled is Hell in a Cell. And I feel like for Tony Khan, every match in his mind has to be Hell in a Cell to a degree. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, like every match is ECW-esque for him. Like every match has to be that big. Like look at this match. Look how extreme I can do it. Like it has to be a 5-star, blow your mind match. No, like some matches can be 2 stars. It tells a slow story to begin with. Like not everything has to be main event, like lights on and everything. And I feel like that's his issue.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I mean, I just, by the way, I have to mention, because I was thinking as you were saying that about Hell in a Cell, I love the fact that Triple H is like, oh no, this should be a match. This shouldn't be a pay-per-view, because it like you were saying, it's more of a personal thing. It's not, oh, so we're just gonna have a pay-per-view and we're gonna face somebody in the Hell in a Cell. No. I'm tired of your shit, or I can't beat your ass, so I'm gonna throw you in a Hell in a Cell so nobody can fucking interfere. It is more personal, and it should be more personal. Tony just, I think, just doesn't understand how to do it. And he's a fan that's doing this. And yes, you guys caught fire, but there's a reason why Cody Rhodes left. And I think this is the reason why Cody had left, because he saw the writing on the wall. He saw that, Tony was taking this into his hands too much and not letting these other people do what they're supposed to do. And, when he started to get away from, just what AEW was doing in the beginning, it just started going downhill. And that's the thing. Like, if you don't have a storyline, if you're not sucking me in, your ticket sales are going to go down, like we see at AEW shows, and then you're done. And you can have what, Dynamite and Ring of Honor all you want on the same night. People are leaving after Dynamite's over and not even watching the ROH matches. So, you're doing way too much at the same time. And that's another thing too that I can talk about, including that is Ring of Honor, his treatment of that. But I saw today or yesterday, he CW offered him a deal and he turned it down. So they could have had Ring of Honor on TV again, yet he said no. So that, again, it's like you're sitting here, you're looking at it and you're going, huh, okay. Why are you doing it this way?
Icarus is flying too close to the sun. He thinks he's untouchable. Meanwhile,
He does.
Triple H has watched. That's the difference between him and Triple H. Like, Hunter has watched everything that like Vince did right and what Vince did wrong. And I feel like that's like the biggest advantage that he had is like also, you know, like Triple H had a vision too, and he like I watched I want to say it was Thy Kingdom Come, like the Triple H story. Um and he talks about like how when he was in WCW, he's like, so what's your training? Like he was learning about the power plant, learning about like the training facility and like stuff like that. So I think he like takes NXT a lot of NXT in the Performance Center is in a tribute to what WCW and the power plant had prior to like WWE and stuff. Because WWE never really had like a whole training facility, like a whole training developmental thing. So like I feel like that's a huge advantage that Hunter has on him, and just just being smarter and being married to the most 10 of 10s ever. Oh, Stephanie. Oh, I could go on a whole fucking hour rant about Stephanie.
I'm sure you could, but we don't have an hour.
Right? This old man's got to wake up for work soon.
Yeah, you do. You are old. Anyways, I think we can leave it there. I think we've talked about a lot of the good stuff. One thing that I think that we should start doing, Tony, and I think this would be great, is we should probably point out one match a week, or because we do this semi-weekly, or it might turn into weekly. I just kind of I want you to kind of like, you come up with your favorite match of the week. I'll come up with my favorite match of the week. Hell, if we end up coming in matching that, if we agree on the same match, we'll just talk about it in the same time. But I think that would be a great thing to do too, because I think WWE especially has some really good matches going on right now, and we need to point these out.
I 100% agree. I definitely am down to do that. And also, like right now for me, it's Rumble season. I'm in Rumble mode. What would you, for someone who's never watched like a Rumble, what Royal Rumble pay-per-view and or match or Royal Rumble match would you have them watch? For me, it would be the 2000 Royal Rumble. The street fight between Cactus Jack and Triple H is off the charts, amazing in Madison Square Garden. You also have the tables match between the Dudleys and Hardys. You have a triple threat match with Jericho, Holly, and China for the Intercontinental Championship. You have the actual Royal Rumble itself. You have tag team title match between the Outlaws and the APA. All around a great Rumble. It's one of my favorites. Definitely recommend that one.
I mean, I don't remember which Royal Rumble this was. And by the way, I'm only saying this because of the Royal Rumble match. I thought that was a really good one. I'm not saying it's the best one, but I think it was one of the better ones. It was the one where Cena returned and nobody knew that he was returning because he had injured
2008, yeah.
Was it? Yeah, that one where like he comes out, he's number 30. I think it's him, Triple H, Batista. Might have been somebody. No, I think it was just those three at the end. And it was a great match. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
But I think that's it for this week. Tony, where can they find you and talk to you on socials and whatnot?
On X or Twitter, whatever everyone wants to call it, it's at 89_tones, TONES. Or you can find me on Instagram. It's Lou and Tony. That's my Instagram handle, Lou and Tony. Couple underscores in there with just me and my dog. So you can find me on there. Talk to me on there. What about you, Paul? Where can they get you at?
Well, you can always find me on Twitter, X, whatever the hell you want to call it now, at Paul Pascrillo. You can hear me on the Toonami Faithful podcast whenever I do an episode. And you can email me if you want to bitch about this podcast or you want us to add more stuff or whatever. Paul Pascrillo at ToonamiFaithful.com. And also, as far as the podcast goes, you can listen to us on a lot of the podcast apps that's out there. Mainly, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. I believe we are also on some of the other major ones as well. But if there is a podcast app you want to hear us on, because that's your favorite podcast app, let us know. Email me at the email I just used, paulpascrillo at ToonamiFaithful.com, and we will add it up. So, yeah. But yeah, that's this week's episode of Thoughts on Wrestling. Please do give your thoughts on our wrestling podcast. And also, if you want to hear our episodes every single week on social media, you can go to @Geeky Inc. on X, Twitter, or Geeky Inc. Productions on Facebook. I will be posting the episodes there. That is my production company. So I thought, what the hell, I'm going to use it there. So it's just sitting there. It needs to be used. So.
Right. Why not get a cheap pop in, right?
Exactly. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you next time.
I'm gonna be controversial. Merry Christmas to everyone.
Go to your room.
Punish.